stop. Welcome everyone. Today, this is the information session of the European Data Space for Smart Communities. And while today we want to focus on the fourth open call and its announcement, we wanted to give you some context, although I hope you are all familiar with our faces and our activities by now. Let's go to the next slide, please. So, of course, why are we here? Generally, we are here because we are interested in data spaces. The data spaces come from the concept of data spaces, and the subsequent interest and focus on creating data spaces comes from European legislation and activities. So we started around 2020 with the European Digital Decade and the subsequent strategy for data, which focuses on creating a single market for our data and a relevant infrastructure for that. And common European data spaces serve as a enabler of that. Can I just check with my colleagues that you guys, I made you also co-hosts. Can you also let in people?
Yes.
That's would be helpful. Thank you. All right. So, but why data spaces? Well, this is a concept which was designed to help us and help stakeholders exchange and share data in a trustworthy and secure manner. What does that mean? The idea is that when we generally think about data sharing, we can worry about losing ownership or control over the data sets, and data spaces are here to overcome some of these associated uncertainties with data sharing. Next slide, please. So the European strategy for data and subsequently the common European data spaces, what they actually spell out is how to facilitate data sharing. This pertains to rules for access, how to use the data, what does it mean, fair data sharing, and what are practical and clear data mechanisms that we can rely on. And when we think about these very tangible outputs, these should all be respecting and complying with European values and regulations. And when we do this, hopefully in return, we will make a lot of high quality data available across sectors, across borders in Europe, thereby to facilitate new services, new innovations, businesses, and public sector activities. Next slide, please. So when we talk about data spaces for smart communities, we specifically, in this environment, we specifically focus on use cases that are actually looking at the smart communities environment. So we usually look at cross-sectorial use cases. We started actually in 2022. We had a preparatory action when we developed a blueprint. So basically, what does a European data space for smart communities look like? 12 months after this start, we provided this blueprint and moved forward to actually deploy real data spaces across European communities. And how did we do this? Well, we looked at you guys and we invited the community to apply for co-funding and subsequently create these cross-sectorial, cross-border data spaces. The idea is that these implementations would then in turn validate the blueprint, which means that we would demonstrate that we can do cross-sectorial data sharing. There can be a federated data space across Europe, that we can actually help and foster European policies in this environment, as well as we can advance on our own data-driven innovation. Next, please. So what is happening right now? Currently, we are in our final year. So actually, we are going to conclude this initiative end of this year. And as such, we already have 11 pilots. And these 11 pilots actually represent more than 30 local communities. And of course, their research and private partners as well, who support the deployment of the respective data spaces. These data spaces all cover different domains, so traffic management, mobility, weather and climate, energy flows, zero pollution actions, and we have others that also are there to realize new European Bauhaus values or missions. And while these data spaces remain on local level, they already foreshadow the possibility of national and European level scale data spaces. These initiatives also link to other European innovation or activities such as the Cityverse or local digital twins. And meanwhile, while we are actually in this journey of making data available across different mechanisms all the way to services, we still remain very much dedicated to the concept of interoperability. So at the heart of all of this lies the concept of minimal interoperability mechanisms. Next slide, please. Okay, so now what we are looking at here today is to once again announce that we are going to look at you guys, at the community, to award and co-fund 10 to 12 pilots to implement European data spaces. We are targeting here local and regional public administrations across Europe, and their partners that can be from civil society, companies, academia, of course, those who understand their use cases. Next slide, please. So please bear in mind, please bear in mind that we in this environment we are talking about smart communities. This means that the use cases have to be led by local and regional public administration interest. What we are looking at is to create services, innovation that can ultimately increase the quality of life of citizens through services that tap in one of the targeted areas. So, for example, increasing air quality or providing better public transport experiences. Next, please. We have had 15.3 million euros available to award as co-funding to our pilots when they were applying across the open calls that we have had the past years. This means that when I say co-funding, whatever one consortia applied for, they were expected to match the other the amount they asked for with in-kind contributions. So from their side, which means like if they applied for, let's say, 500,000 euros per pilot, they were expected to put down also 500,000 euros, which brings the pilot, the use case itself, to a total of 1 million. Next, please. So what you are probably familiar with is this 3 open calls that we already had. We have had a lot of buzz around it and a lot of applications and a lot of discussions. And since then, we have also introduced the awarded pilots, the 11 pilots I described earlier in the context of the stakeholder forums. But now we have come to the conclusion that it's time to do a 4th and final round of open calls to invite a final round of consortia to innovate with us and actually join our community of practitioners. All of this will be now expanded upon. So my colleague Silla Sepp from TATEC will be here to explain you what is this 4th round about, who are the expected partners, who can innovate with us, and how you can apply for the funding that we described. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sophie. I'll take over then the word right away to, as mentioned already, go through the details of the 4th round of open calls. With those who are here for the first time or we haven't had the chance to meet yet, my name is Silla Sepp. I serve as the head of urban data ecosystems at the Finnish Center for Smart Cities and will be responsible for the management of these open calls. So in the next, let's say 30 minutes or so, my goal is to walk you through both in terms of what is actually expected from the pilots, in terms of scope, in terms of some of the preconditions that we have set to all of the consortia and the pilot applications. Then I have a quick kind of check-in also with you about what are your interests? Are you already preparing for this application, even though it's day one for the application period? After that, of course, I will also present you the, let's say, more administrative things about what is required in terms of documentation, what are the deadlines, and so forth. And later on, the goal is to open this up for discussion in various breakout rooms. But let's start then from the overall scope for the open calls. This is already covered. You have the links available both to the funding and tenders portal as well as the website on all of the materials for the call text, supporting materials, etc. And the call is now open for 2 months. So we expect you to submit the applications latest by the 31st of May. What is expected from all of the pilots? If you're familiar with the previous pilots and previous open calls, then basically I can say that the scope is exactly what you have already learned from the previous rounds. The pilots are expected to create new data services from the data that has been shared among partners within the consortium, and that data needs to come from at least 2 different Green Deal domains that you see here on the right. So predictive traffic management and sustainable mobility planning for the first one. A second, data services related to weather, climate, and extreme weather events. Third, management of energy flows in a city or community specific context. Then, of course, Green Deal refers a lot also to zero pollution actions, either considering air, water, soil pollution or waste. And of course, there's also additional domains that could be valuable here, especially in the context of the new European Bauhaus initiative. So we also encourage you to think about the other domains. In addition to that, it's not only about creating new data services, but it's really there to give a head start to and focus on value creation while in the background validating that actually a data sharing at scale in local communities is possible. So to do so, you have available the already updated data spaces blueprint from that was published actually last year, June. It consists of both the technical and non-technical elements, covering also business governance and legal aspects. From that perspective, we want you to see that the applicants in the end, the pilots will take this blueprint into use, show what works, what doesn't, and how actually a data space for smart communities can operate in practice. From here onwards, of course, there are multiple different types of preconditions that pilots need to meet from legal, financial, technical, business and organizational, and ethical sides. And my goal is to walk you through quickly in each of them. I'll start with the legal one. Legal primarily focuses on the eligibility criteria for the consortiums. We look for consortiums that are cross-border and cross-sectorial as well, including at least 2 local administrations from 2 different EU member states or countries that are part of the Digital Europe program as associated countries. You'll see there's an asterisk there, and this refers to the point that the overall program of the European Data Space for Smart Communities is from 2022, and therefore the conditions are as such that only those associated countries that were already part of the Digital Europe program in 2022 are eligible. Here, the list, of course, has been grown over the years, but at least for this call, those other additional countries would not be eligible. All local administrations participating in the pilot and all other organizations who are committing with co-financing need to also submit a letter of commitment stating their support and commitment to actually bring that co-financing in. And all pilot sites need to really be working in the project, not only providing the context. So that means also that they need to have an allocated effort in the budget. Of course, you don't need to do this alone. You can involve other partners with you, as already mentioned by Sophie. Just mentioning again that this is a restricted call, so the consortium members cannot be controlled from entities that are from other countries that are not eligible. So do take that into account, and just note that in case there are those conditions, an ownership control declaration needs to be submitted once selected for the grant. I'll continue then with the financial preconditions. Sophie mentioned already that the available grant for the fourth round of open calls is a maximum of 500,000 euros per pilot project. There is also an additional condition, which sounds perhaps strange, that there's a maximum of 1 million euros grant per entity. But as there are already 3 previous rounds and the fourth round of open calls is also still open for organizations that have participated in the previous rounds, then it's important that you take into account that your received amount would not exceed this limit. As already again mentioned, there's also a requirement to bring in additional 50% of co-financing, and this needs to be a dedicated cost indicated directly in the budget, and needs to be auditable. It needs to be also confirmed in the application as well as in the letter of commitment. And what is really important is that double funding is not allowed, and also in-kind contributions that are not directly monetized in the project would not be also eligible or correct in this project. So that is something that you need to take into account, but also there is a strategic rationale for this. Data space developments are not just projects that have a start and an end, and then we really don't know what comes next, but rather we want to see developments that the stakeholders are really invested also with their own skin in a way, that they really want to sustain those activities beyond the pilot project, and therefore they also bring in their own investments into this endeavor. Moving on then with technical preconditions, there's a couple of different points. The call text goes a little bit more in detail with those, but in short, while we haven't set the very strong limit for the digital maturity of the communities involved, there is a requirement to still state that whether you have a data platform, digital twin, or emerging data space already available in the community. And especially to demonstrate your feasibility to actually interconnect or federate with other data spaces in the long run, there's a real recommendation also from the call text to deploy already existing data space connectors. The call text provides a list of those, but it's only for illustrative way. It's not exhaustive. You can bring in also additional connectors that meet or align with the protocol, but it's highly suggested there. In addition, there's a requirement to comply by the end of the project with 3 minimum interoperability mechanisms. Those are MIM1 on interlinking data, MIM2 on representing data, and MIM6 on securing data. And you might notice that the naming of those have been changing compared to the previous rounds. This is, of course, also that minimum interoperability mechanisms are not set in stone. They're constantly evolving, and therefore please also make sure that you use the latest version of that when preparing for your application. You'll have all the references in the call text. In addition, there is also the aspect of using the blueprint and mapping your implementations to the data spaces building blocks, the standards and implementations, and explain your plan to incorporate those required components into the architecture. I'll need to speed up a little bit, so I'll just mention again that updated blueprint has also the reference for or description of the components as well as the overall reference architecture. So again, this has evolved since the start of the project. So again, please refer back to the latest documentation available. In terms of business and organization preconditions, we want to just emphasize that this is not a technical project solely, but we want to see good rationale for value creation, good identification of your stakeholders and how do you actually create value for them. What are your initial plans for a business model around that use case and the data space overall? How do you intend to govern that data space? So please also consider and explain those aspects in your application. Also think about both direct and indirect impact and your plans for sustainability. Again, there's also a lot available already in the blueprint. For example, the organizational principles that have been defined already in the preparatory action. So please take those again into considerations and show how do you intend to align with those. We also recommend to use the data cooperation canvas that you might be already familiar with from the past, but this is a suggestion. It's optional, but highly recommended. It helps to bring in all the elements together and have this initial idea for your use case and the data sharing environment and the collaboration between partners. Then lastly, there's the ethical preconditions. Minimum is that you complete and submit an ethical and data protection self-assessment that has been standard across the different rounds of open calls. And you take into account that this is basically for you to identify and then address some of the concerns that might raise up, both in terms of in the self-assessment as well as in your work plan in the application. The call text describes also some ethical principles that should be followed, as well as then the list of relevant legislation that might be applicable to your use case. We understand also that the scope is the same. There's a bit less money available, and also the time is quite short. So we want to make sure that we actually can also help you get inspired by how to meet those objectives of the call. So we've prepared some suggestions here. First of all, again, in short, with paraphrasing the call text. You have 3 months to implement during the summer and fall months. You have available €500,000 plus the 50% of co-financing that you bring in. And as a pilot, you must demonstrate data sharing among the partners a bit from different domains or sectors, both to do so, you need to think about both technical and non-technical elements. By sharing that data, we want to see that you actually have, you're starting to create value through an existing service and create that impact in that local community. And while doing so, you have the feasibility to actually build or connect to at least one data space that aligns with the blueprint from the European data space for smart communities. And to meet those objectives and requirements, we've identified a couple of different pathways you could do that. Firstly, you could think about a local data space or a local data sharing environment that you have already in place that aligns with the blueprint. You could think about adding new participants to that, demonstrating how you can really grow and scale data space and data sharing. And by adding new participants, bringing in new data, and also developing a new use case, you also show how to grow the use case portfolio in that environment. The second pathway here is also adding new data products into a local data space by, for example, again, combining this with existing data and creating new services with the existing participants. If you're already higher in your digital maturity levels, you have available the components for data spaces. You could also think of delivering entirely new data space and demonstrating sharing of data there and create those services. And finally, you could also think about collaborating with other data spaces to interconnect them and open up those network effects of sharing data, sharing services, and collaboration to create new services. So that it doesn't get stay too abstract. Also, we think have thought about a couple of example stories. So, for example, there could be a community B in Europe that operates a data space that combines mobility and environmental data to support urban traffic optimization services. That data space opens it up for a new partner. That partner joins the data space and contributes with energy grid data and building energy consumption data. And by integrating those additional data sets, then existing participants can develop a new service that optimizes electric vehicle charging schedules based on traffic patterns and grid capacity, benefiting then both mobility operators and local energy providers. That is one scenario using a couple of different pathways described beforehand. Another example could be that a consortium of municipalities and a local service provider creates a completely new data space that focuses on climate resilient urban infrastructure. The data space combines water management data with urban planning and construction data. And by using reusable components that align with the blueprint from the European Data Space for Smart Communities, the pilot demonstrates a decision support service that helps city planners identify, for example, flood risk areas and prioritize climate adaptation measures. Again, a different pathway, but by reusing, replicating, and growing, this is foreseen to be feasible to complete within the conditions that are available for the fourth round of open calls. So with that, next I would like to kind of go through the application process, what type of materials you need to produce and submit, and what is also the support available to you. But before doing so, are there any questions about the scope or the conditions of the fourth round? And I haven't had the chance to follow the chat. If Jeno, there's anything coming up there, please help me quickly identify those. Or if you're okay to have it recorded, then please also raise your hand and speak out loud.
For the moment, we haven't received any questions on the chat.
Okay. That's okay. We have still time. Maybe those questions come up later on. We can always come back to those. Let me then go through the application process and timeline. First of all, what you need to submit. Again, this is the same as for the previous open calls. There is the application form, the pilot budget, letters of commitment, and the ethics and data protection self-assessment. What has changed compared to the previous rounds is that the application form previously had limitations on character limits per question. We've now simplified this and made it based on page limits. So the application is a bit shorter also with a maximum of 30 pages. You can also, I'll mention it later on, you can use images, but those cannot exceed a half a page there. You'll see here already that the application for the different file formats, please also respect those and submit your application package by the deadline to an email apply@ds4SSCC.eu. All of the templates are available in the call page. You'll have the link here, and my colleagues will also provide that in the chat. Very quickly, the application form has this following structure around confirming the details of the pilot, the duration, grant allocation, the members, also the domains that you want to bring in. These will be assessed for the eligibility. I will speak a bit more on the evaluation process in a bit. Then the three following sections are really the content of the application, helping to understand what are you intending to do. How relevant it is, how does it align with different policies and the blueprint and so forth. What is your work plan? Who is actually already involved to conduct that work? And also how do you allocate that effort across also financial resources? What is your impact? And basically that content will be assessed by external and internal evaluators, again, according to the evaluation criteria that I was mention in a bit. Finally, you have the section on declaring a couple of different things, for example, who has provided the letters of commitment, your ownership control, also, and so forth. Then a couple of tips and reminders around that. Also, these are derived from the previous open calls processes, and we want to just highlight the importance of declaring your digital maturity and describing that. You can use also this Lorimer self-assessment to indicate that across the different pilot sites. And there's two different questions that look into understanding your digital maturity. So please really take care of describing that properly. Then what is again very important is that you emphasize and articulate your value proposition of the use case, considering both business case, business model, and sustainability of that in your application. Also consider opportunities for replicating those services. Don't forget to include the summaries of the budget per organization and also indicate co-financing that has been brought in from the partners. Note on the page limit, and as mentioned already, images can be used, but they cannot exceed a half a page. Then The budget file again has the cost structure so that there's a personal cost, subcontracting costs, purchase costs, and indirect costs. What is again highlighted here is just that you follow the instructions in the template and also declare or describe not only the cost but also how have you calculated this. So, for example, for personal costs, we want to see also a daily rate and the allocated person months for per activity. In terms of the budget, here is just really the summary is that we assume that the partners bring in 50% of the co-financing. It's not forbidden to bring in more. So it's just important that if you indeed have additional investments into the project, you also adjust the calculation, the formula in the template, and it's highlighted there in the template as well. So just stay attentive to the template. And then the letters of commitment, again, you have the template available. What is important is that you actually declare the actual sum that you bring in, not only indicating that it's 50%, those need to be submitted from all pilot sites and all partners who are bringing in that co-financing. There needs to be one letter per local administration, and those need to be signed and in the official letterhead of the participating organization. You have the template available, but of course we expect that you adjust that to or bring it into your letterhead. So just again, follow the instructions in the template. If there's any previous letters of commitment from participating organizations or from the previous rounds, of course, I think it's also logical that new letters of commitment would be needed as they address a completely new round. Also, the amount might be different, so just take that into account. And then finally, you have the ethics and data protection self-assessment. You have a list of questions per different, let's say, areas of ethics and data protection. And what is important is that when you've addressed a concern or a potential risk, then you also address that in your application form in the questions in section 3.8, alignment with ethical principles. With that, I'll just go quickly through also the schedule. As already mentioned, the deadline is on the 31st of May, so by midnight of Central European time. The evaluation process continues then during the following month in June, and that includes 4, let's say, periods or phases. First, a quick eligibility check. Those applications that are eligible will go through the evaluation by experts. Then there's a consensus group meeting. It's not just mathematical kind of calculations, but really negotiations and discussions among the evaluators. And then finally, the final ranking and selection. The eligibility check itself, it's available to you on the website and in the call text. There's administrative aspects of like whether all of the materials have been really submitted, following the instructions and page limits and so forth. And then there are more substance-related criteria around technical and ethical asides. We will do this in a matter of days, and yeah, as mentioned, only eligible applications will go through the expert evaluation. I mentioned the content of the application that meets the evaluation criteria. So relevance, implementation, and impact. Those will be assessed by at least 3 experts, both from external to this consortium as well as internal. Each criteria needs to receive at least 3 points to pass the evaluation, and in total, the application needs to receive a minimum of 10 points to pass the threshold. After that, there's the consensus group meeting and the final ranking. And here I just want to emphasize that it's again another mathematical kind of ranking, but because it's in the end, it's important that it meets and helps to achieve the overall objectives of working towards a European data space for smart communities. We also look at how does this fit into the overall portfolio of different pilots that have been already in the program. In the course of the fourth round, if there's even scores among the applications, then we first look at the criterion of relevance, and if that is also even, then the next one would be impact. So this is in order of importance. The evaluation team has the right to then adjust the rankings either based on domain or where this application is coming from in terms of the pilot sites distribution in the union and so forth. So again, this is also further explained in the call text. After this evaluation is done, you will receive notifications by the end of June. Then there's a month to check everything that everything is correct, both from legal and financial sides. If there's a need to submit and assess ownership control declarations, that will be done. And if there's anything to negotiate based on the feedback from evaluators, then that will be also done within 1 month. We note that this is summer months. This is, of course, more challenging in terms of the holidays, but also we want to just emphasize that unfortunately it's not possible to push it more to the fall, and we expect that you have assessed your capacity to actually both engage in the negotiation as well as implementation of the project starting from 1st of August properly, and there would not be any delays. So again, the pilot implementation would start already from 1st of August for 3 months and then deliver by the end of October. But you are not there alone. You already can always reach out to the team during the next 2 months to clarify different questions you might have around the call conditions. But also once the implementation starts, there's a quick onboarding to the project, a list of different, let's say, services that you have available from the consortium, including trainings and mentoring. Also access to different experts on both technical and non-technical sides. We, of course, need to also assess the progress made over the project. So there will be an initial assessment for meeting different key performance indicators and impact, and then that would be done again in the end of the project. Because it's such a short project, there will not be any interim reviews, only final review. And also we've indicated in the call text that we're not expecting you to have a lot of different deliverables, but instead show what are those outputs that you deliver throughout the 3 months and then report back on those during the final report at the end of the project. So with that, I'll just move in to a quick check-in. If there's any questions that have come in, also please raise that. But otherwise, I invite you to already go to menti.com. There you can either scan this QR code or type in menti.com and then the code 12961219, and just to indicate your current position, whether you're already looking into the call, maybe you've already made a decision, maybe you have your partners to submit an application there, maybe you're still looking for those partners but generally are interested. Maybe you're still exploring it and are thinking about whether to apply or not. maybe this is not really interesting, or actually you might lack either the digital maturity or the co-financing. So just this is a quick check-in to see where you are. I see that you're already starting to respond. Great. And there seems to be some coverage to all of the different questions. That's also good. Then we know how to still also support you in the coming rounds. I'll give another minute or so to respond. I think some people are still finding their way to Menti. The survey should be also open, even though if I could continue with the next slide. But yeah, please do let us know also. And if it's not possible to join us in Menti, you can always indicate that your response is also in the chat. Well, first of all, I'm just glad to see already somebody mentioning that they're definitely going to submit, and that they have some soft agreements already with some partners, and that there are people looking into this carefully. So let us know also how we could support you in figuring out next, details around the call. The next slide here is actually on what kind of support you would need. I see that two of you have already responded. Please continue also ranking those. So it seems that finding great partners is really on the top of the list, and working through the technical details of the project. It's great that understanding the eligibility criteria is on the last list, so it seems that it's clear. And of course, one of the options is other, so that we don't know what this other might be. Please use the chat to indicate what are you considering in that context. If there's anything that you would still need that is not covered here in the list. In terms of finding great partners, next part of this meeting is also to already support with that, with an initial matchmaking session. And we'll speak more about it at the end of the session, but there's another info session and a matchmaking session coming up at the end of this month on the 29th of April. So there we will have more time to also perhaps have some initial pitches for ideas around different proposals and what the partners can contribute with. So please stay also tuned for the upcoming opportunities to find other partners. And in terms of working through the technical and non-technical details, first of all, we encourage you to go through both the blueprint for the overall descriptions of the business and organizational and technical building blocks. There's also then, this is further elaborated also in the context of the call in the frequently asked questions. So again, you have a link to that, hopefully already in the chat, but also in the call page. And if you don't have or find that answer from there, you can always reach out to us through support@DS4SSCC.eu, and we'll try to answer your questions. All right, thank you so much for this interactiveness, also to help us understand what's your position here first. Before going ahead with matchmaking, Genoveva, has there been any questions coming in from the audience?
No questions, but I already see some matchmaking that might be happening in the chat.
Very good to hear. All right, well, this is a good segue then to our matchmaking session. This will be our first time here for this call, and how we will do that. First of all, we have around 25 minutes or so for some speed dating. So we've organized it as such to create 5 different breakout rooms based on the thematics or use cases that you might be interested in the 5 Green Deal domains that you see here on the right. Each group will be facilitated or moderated by one of our colleagues. And we ask you there to basically move into a Miro. Your facilitators will provide you with a link as soon as you get into the rooms. There in the Miro, first take a couple of minutes to type in your name and affiliation, your city and country where you're working or coming from. What is your interest or familiarity with the European data space for smart communities? Understanding just that everything is okay and good. It gives just context for where our partner's coming from. And please try to also define shortly who or what are you actually looking for to continue building your application for this open call. If you wish, don't hesitate also to share your contact details so others can follow that later on. How do we do that? You will have in a moment a pop-up window will come up. You can select a room by yourself. I hope that you will receive that. Technical aspects don't always work, but if it doesn't come up, then already type in your selection in the chat, and our colleagues will assign you automatically then to that room, so that you don't have to find your way and select it yourself. But it will help because there's a lot of us here. So if there's any questions about matchmaking, let us know. And if not, then I'll ask my colleague to open the rooms and ask you to start.
The rooms are open.
Great. So then if you move out from the Zoom, I hope you had the chance to really meet somebody new also in this info session already. We want to just encourage you to also join the stakeholder forum of this project. The next meeting will be already in a couple of weeks on the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken, of April. And beyond the interactive sessions there and the interactions that happen between stakeholders, in addition to that, also the members of stakeholder forum have an access to a form to further also elaborate on their profile and make it available to other stakeholders. And you'll see that there's already more than 400 stakeholders involved in the stakeholder forum. Not everyone will have had the chance to use the form yet, but it's open and available to you once you're a part of the forum. So encourage you to join if you are not already part of it. So just the last part in terms of the next steps. Beyond this info session, we encourage you to go to the call page, go through the manual and read through the conditions. And then also, if you're not already familiar, just to kind of refresh, and actually, it's always good to also refresh your memory around the Green Deal and New European Bauhaus initiative and what's its status at the moment, and define the 2 sectors that would be kind of in focus for your use case and the data space implementation. And then also go through all of the supporting materials available to you in the call page, both the blueprint, the annotated grant agreement, also maybe look through the Digital Europe program objectives, etc. So it all is for available for you. I mentioned previously also the frequently asked questions page. We've made sure that this is updated for the context of the fourth round. So if you have a question, check through this, and if you don't find an answer there, then please reach out to us via that email here. Then we've also in the past provided a blog post around some of the reflections and tips from the previous open calls. It might be also useful to skim through when you're preparing your application for some common things that might be important to think about when you're preparing your application. Then you have available also the videos from the training hub and also the recordings from past stakeholder forum meetings once you're part of the forum. Again, these are useful for understanding what's the state of the game in a way, and also what are some of the elements to consider when thinking about interoperability, data sharing, governance, sustainability, etc. Then, of course, start building your consortium, clarifying the purpose, your use case, and what. Yes, it is a one project. It has a start and an end, but we really hope that you also see this as an opportunity to actually get additional 50% of co-financing for the activities that you want to anyway engage in. So also think about your overall strategy in engaging with different partners in this endeavor. And again, just as a reminder, the submission deadline is on the 31st of May. Here you'll see the 4 documents that would be required from you. And please make sure to also check the eligibility criteria to cross-check this before submission. With that, is there any final questions or thoughts that you'd like to bring up before we close for today? Quickly open up also the chat. And if not, then I just thank you for your attention, for joining us today for this first info session. Again, we meet again on the 29th of April for the second info session. There we'll go through quickly about some of the conditions in a more lightweight way than today, and have an extended time for matchmaking and also presenting some of the initial ideas that you might have, so that you can build a good strong consortium and also a good use case for your application. So you have the QR code available for registering there, and also stay tuned with through our social media accounts for all of the links, so that you can also share that to your partners. With that, I thank you. Here are some of the final links again for the open call and stakeholder forum, contact details, support, where you can ask questions, social media accounts. All of that is available for you. Thank you so much, and we stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everyone, bye-bye.